Hey guys, what's up? This is Siddharth Kumar. Welcome to Review Magic. This is a destination where I give unbiased opinions on movie shows, films from around the world. Today we will be reviewing The Swordsman. So Swordsman came out in 2020. It is a Korean action drama movie, and we will be talking about what went good, what went wrong in today's review. So stick around, and if you have not yet subscribe to the channel, please do so soon. The movie has been directed by Jae-Hoon Choi. He's also the writer, and in the acting department, you're gonna find Jang Hyuk, who goes by Tae-Yul in the movie, Joe Taslim, who goes by the name Gurutai in the movie. You also have Man-sik Jung, who goes by the name of Min Seung-tui in this movie. And I know my pronunciation may not be the same as someone from Korea would say it, so please mind that, guys. And what this movie is all about, I mean, it's a swordsman, that the movie says it itself. It's all about figuring out who is the best swordsman in the Joseon dynasty. So this is an old movie. It's back in the days when the kings used to be ruling their provinces. In the China, you had the Qing dynasty, and then the Qing and the Joseon dynasty, they were fighting. As a matter of fact, the Qing dynasty also had captured areas of Korea, and that's where this tussle is happening between the warriors of China versus the warriors in Korea. If you look at the IMDb plot, the movie is all about who's going to be the best swordsman. Is it going to be from the Qing dynasty, from Joseon dynasty? Because these are three people that I just mentioned. You've got Jang Hyuk, who's in the main lead. He's on the cover page of the poster. You've got Joe Taslim and Man-sik Jung. So just three people. Pretty much that's what the story is all about, these three people. But on the poster, you only see Jang Hyuk. So is he really the great swordsman? We'll find that out in today's review. So let's talk about the plot here. When you start seeing swordsman, initial scene is where this king who is escaping he's in the Joseon dynasty in Korea, and his bodyguards are with him. So he reaches a place where he's trying to take shelter because his army is getting killed by another king's army. And then wherever this king is taking shelter, his own men are guarding, protecting him. And one of the guy who is protecting is Jang Hyuk. He is the bodyguard of the king. But wherever they are staying, the remaining force of this king comes to capture the king, because the king had given the order to his generals to just bow down and surrender. He got his siblings killed. So the guy who's leading that effort from the opposite side to come and capture this king is Man-sik Jung. So he's the one, and before he captures that king, he has to engage in a duel with Jang Hyuk. And as they are doing this fight, both are equally good in the movie. I mean, they're fighting with swords. As they do it, some blood is shed, and the king eventually comes out of the shelter. But when he is coming out of the shelter, Man-sik, who is fighting with Jang, he cuts the sword of Jang, and while he cuts it, there's some particles of the sword that go into the eye of Jang. So he becomes a little blind eventually. He's not legally blind, but he's getting there. Now his eyes have been affected. By the way, the sword of Jang is pretty good, I would say. It's not a usual sword. There is a cut at the edge, and that makes it look very different. So he is captured along with the king, and somehow Jang is tortured, but he escapes the prison and he runs away. He is taking refuge in the mountains. He actually carries the king's daughter, a small baby, and he escapes. So a new king takes over, and then I think the fight was happening between the Qing and the Joseon dynasty, and then this new king that comes, he is under the control of the Qing dynasty. And then ultimately what happens is that one day his daughter grows up, and the daughter thinks that he needs treatment for his eyes. Her father needs treatment, enslavement, and then they come to the city, and that's where Jang gets into this fighting with the warriors from Qing dynasty. His daughter gets kidnapped by Gurutai's Joe Taslim's men, and he recovers his daughter from these people. Jang gets into a fight with Joe, who eventually dies, and then they all his daughter is back with him, and eventually everything goes fine. So this is what the story is all about. So sounded like a very simple story. You didn't hear a lot of action going, which is there in the quest to get his daughter. There are fight sequences where Jang has to show that he is the real swordsman, and he does engage in fight several times. So that was the plot, guys. As far as the direction is concerned, I think the movie certainly centers on the role of Jang Hyuk. He's aging, he's getting old, his eyes are now suffering because of the particles that came into his eyes a long time back when he was young. He has a daughter now, and she's pushing him to go to the city, get treatment for his eyes. And from start to the end, yes, this is a movie on Jang. But when I said that, the plot focuses on who is the best warrior, you don't really see that really in the movie. The role of Man Sik-jung is not too big. This guy has also aged. He's taking retirement from the Joseon dynasty, so he's not in a position where he can fight a lot. I think Joe Taslim looks the more youngish guy in his late 30s, and he's the one who can do everything. But eventually, the movie is very predictable. That Jang, even though he's blind, he is able to fight 30 men from the Qing dynasty. He's also able to fight the close people associated with Joe Taslim's team, his inner circle. So that's how the movie is very predictable. I basically just watched it because of the action. I'm a big fan of Korean drama, and of course, I love history. So, this takes you back in that time, so you want to see it. As the movie unfolds also, you see a lot of politics happening. As I was saying, the new king that comes in Joseon dynasty, he's under the control of Qing dynasty. Qing dynasty, took a lot of people as slaves, and then, they are trading them for either money or for some other condition. So it's not a good time for the people in that era, and I think Jae-Hoon, the director, does a decent job to show those atrocities that are happening on the Korean people. If you didn't know what was happening back in those days, this is the time you see where people have their loved ones separated. Either they are killed or they are sent for slave trading. Girls especially, they don't have future, and then it's not a good looking time. So amid the politics that's happening, Korea doesn't have a lot of control, Qing being the bigger player here. So things are not looking good. So it shows you through that. And why I'm telling you this is because this is actually a real story, guys. The facts are quite true as I was researching the movie. So the reason I was talking about this slave trade happening, because Jang, his daughter, because they come to the city and they make an agreement with someone who says that yes, we can get your dad treated, we can give the medicines, but you would have to work under for a senator. You would have to do some caretaking. But what happens is that as a matter of doing caretaking, this senator, he's at odds with Joe Taslim, Gurutai's team, and then his daughter and Jang's daughter are kidnapped, and that's how this whole story unravels. So you do see that, why the daughter goes there and why Jang has to come and now engage in fighting. He hasn't fought in years, and now he's doing it. His condition is deteriorating, but he's able to fight 30 people from the Qing dynasty, which I thought was a little bit too much. That fighting scene where he fights with 30 people is not that impressive. I would say maybe you'll argue that he's not done this kind of practice, but I think it's a decent performance. Someone who comes out of age and he's able to kill 30-40 people is okay, but it wasn't really strong performance in my opinion. And I said it's a predictable story. In the end, when Jang comes to rescue his daughter, there are no men there to fight him. I mean, there is only Man Sik-jung. He used to be part of Joseon dynasty, but now he's kind of protecting Gurutai and his team, and he engages in a fight with Jang. He dies, which I thought was a very simple fight. It wasn't really very strong one. And then in the end, Joe gives a hard time to Jang. He's a young guy, but he dies too. So it's not really something that stands out to me, especially. I was looking to see maybe Jang will die, he's going to perish. The story is going to be all about this martyr. He will always be remembered Joseon dynasty, but that doesn't really happen in this movie. So I'm kind of a little disappointed in that this could be the real story. So, if you talk about that, then maybe the director has just kind of shown, how it flows. But it's a very flat, damp performance, according to me. The acting is kind of so-so. To me, even though Jang is on the poster and, it's all about him, I feel that Joe Taslim does a very good job in his acting. His expressions, he doesn't speak much, but his smile is very evil. And, that conveys more than his actual words coming out of his mouth. So I think he, to me, stood out among all the three actors that are in the movie. It's a kind of a lackluster performance, to be fair with you. I think the director didn't really get much about it from these actors, especially if this is a historic, real story. I wanted to see more coming out of Jang's performance in there. But I do have to mention that the dialogues in the movie are pretty good. At one point you hear Jang saying that my daughter is my country, and I've been reading the English subtitles of it. Maybe in the Korean translation it's different, but for someone like me to hear that in English, my daughter is my country, wow, that is something is really cool to say. And then the other place where he says, don't resent me for dying, you're the one who asked for a fight. So he's this guy who doesn't want to get into trouble, but when the people of Joe Taslim, they want to fight with him, ultimately he gives them a warning saying that you're going to resent this because you're going to die, and don't blame me for that. So I thought that really stood out for me, and that's why I made a note of it, and I wanted to tell you about it. But I think, guys, overall this movie has been rated pretty high. It's around 7 on IMDb, but if I had to give the rating on this, I would just put it on 6 out of 10. This is definitely a one-time watch, but if someone who is historic buff, who loves the Korean culture, drama, and the time period that happens, it doesn't really wow you that much. At some point it's like, all right, I can turn on my TV, I can watch something else, I'll come back to it. And when that's when happens, the monotony comes into the movie. There are scenes which are boring, they're kind of bland. Acting scenes are, okay. The fight sequences are all right. It's a predictable story. I know this is the third time I'm telling you that. I wanted to give my honest opinion about it. It's a family movie. You can watch it with everyone on a weekend or whenever you have to. But that'll be my review, guys. So I hope you enjoyed it. If there are any comments you want to provide, you can write it down. You can subscribe to the channel. We'll be giving you more updates in coming weeks. So until then, take care, guys. Bye-bye.